and he was in first grade. And I remember doing the dishes or cleaning up after dinner.
Mhm.
And he walks in and he goes, "Mommy, this is not fair. You do everything by yourself." And he goes, "You deserve the world." And he walked in there and he pointed at him and he goes, "You need to get up and do something." And so I was, whoa, if my child can see, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because ultimately, you know, if ultimately I want you to, I mean, a lot of people stay in uncomfortable situations for their children.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if my child is seeing this, what am I doing? If my child can see that I deserve more, why don't I feel like I deserve more?
Welcome back to the Unique Conversations with Chris podcast. Today's episode features a conversation with Chandra Smith. Chandra is a lifelong learner and an educator. She takes us on the journey that led her to choose and rediscover herself. It is my absolute pleasure to share a conversation with you guys. So grab your tea or glass of wine and join in on our conversation. So today we're welcoming Chandra to the podcast. Welcome, Chandra. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And so, what I like to do to get started is to play a little this or that game. Really quickly, I'm going to go down this or that, and you just tell me which one. And then, if you want to explain why, you can go ahead. If not, we can just leave it at that. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So, first question: vacation or staycation?
Ooh, vacation. At this point in my
Vacation.
life, vacation.
I agree. Get away. So,
Yeah.
Netflix or Hulu?
Lately, it's been Hulu.
Okay. And I'm just gonna be a little nosy. What show are you binging on Hulu right now?
Okay, I am binging on Snowfall.
That's one of my favorites. I haven't caught up, but yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Are you a night or morning person?
Oh, let's see. I think I can go for either one, depending on
Hmm.
the day. Because I get up so early. I hate getting up, but even when I'm not supposed to get up, my body
Hmm.
still gets up. So I'm gonna have to say morning.
Are you a beach person or mountains?
Beach.
Yeah.
Put me on the beach.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
And then are you into reality shows or would you watch a documentary?
A documentary.
So,
Yeah,
and
I
then
would.
last question, ambition or comfort?
Ooh, ambition.
Ambition.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I invited you on because I felt that your story was very inspiring, especially to those who have at one point felt like they've had to learn to choose themselves in life. Because, oftentimes, especially as women, we are conditioned to put the needs of others ahead of ourselves. And depending upon your role in life, those roles can reinforce that conditioning. And so when we talked the first time, I found it very inspiring and wanted to share your story because I felt like it would be good to hear your journey and how you came to the decision to choose you. So first, before we even begin, I want to introduce you to the audience. So could you just kind of tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, just so they can get an idea
I
about who.
can. Um, yes, like you said, my name is Chandra Smith, and I am from north. I am from Northeast Texas. Um, I am a country girl. I'm from a very small town where everyone knows everybody. Everybody is family, pretty much, in this
Mhm.
community. Born and raised in Kason, Texas, but I grew up in Dangerfield. That's
Okay.
where I attended school. Um, let's see, I was a cheerleader. I decided to become an educator early on. So, of
Hmm.
course, I am an educator. It's like I just love school. I am a country girl, very strong at heart, very strong willed. I am a Black educator, single mom, strong, driven person. And so that is my summary of myself.
What grade do you teach, or what area do you teach?
I teach primary, so I've taught grades pre-K through third grade.
And what is your favorite thing about being an educator?
My favorite thing is this, as corny as this may sound, I love to watch people grow, or I love to watch people, um, and I'm coming to find out it doesn't even matter the age. It's not just children based, but I
Hmm.
love to watch people discover their highest potential. Um,
Hmm.
that is something that I love. I am a natural nurturer. So
Hmm.
being able to give people what I feel they deserve, or kids what I feel that they deserve, or helping them bring it out, that's something that I'm drawn to.
Being an educator
Mm.
and your career and being in leadership, what does the next 5 years look like for you?
Whew, that's I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm definitely at this stage in my career to where being a full time classroom teacher is just about over. Right now, I'm
Hmm.
not full time classroom. Half of the time I'm coaching, and the other half I'm inside of a classroom, and so
Hmm.
it's like a really good buffer to kind of see which area I want to go towards. So this is a year I was fortunate enough to be able to experience a lot more of the admin side, and
Hmm.
so I'm trying to figure out what is it that I want to do. I'm telling my age, but in 3 years I'll be 3 years I'll be 40, and so I'm like, okay, do I go back to school and maybe pursue my doctorate before I'm 40? Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do it before I'm 40, and then I will decide accordingly.
Hmm.
As far as continuing my education go, uh, but I think differently now. I think differently now. And it's not, which I love being around the kiddos. I love it. But I'm starting to see that there are different areas of education that I can be an asset to, as far as molding who is coming or who is being a part of our children's lives. And so I think that's very important as well. And I just feel like my reach, my experience and my wisdom I've gained along my journey of education, I feel like I could just reach more if I'm teaching teachers. And so,
I think that's awesome. I think that your passion and your ability and your love to teach and to learn would be awesome for someone that could, learn from your wisdom and your experience. So
mhm.
that I'm excited to see that
Thank
as you
you.
continue to grow. Back to what we were saying before, this whole episode was basically your journey of finally choosing you. What does that mean for you, and how does that, reflect in your life? What it like? Tell me, walk me through the journey of choosing you.
Walk you through the journey of choosing me. I would have to say that I did not discover this until um much later in my life, probably even after I had children. I didn't
Hmm.
discover it. I discovered it after I had kids. Um that could be around the time that I actually lost myself as well. Coming adding these extra hats, and becoming a wife, becoming a mom, becoming a teacher, and just playing all the parts, and still I just lost myself. And I remember my son. I had a baby. I had my daughter. She was not even 1 years old yet, and my
Hmm.
son was maybe 3. And I remember laying in the bed, and I'm just saying, it was like I was in this tunnel of a routine, and
Hmm.
I was questioning it every morning. I would wake up and I would question myself about, are you really happy? Is this you? Like, are you living to your highest potential? Like, I'm watching myself push everybody around me except for myself. And
Hmm.
it was like I vividly remember saying, "Is this it? Is this it?" Um, because during that time, I was married at the time, and so I was also in a marriage that wasn't fulfilling all of the marital needs that I desired, and so
Hmm.
that also brought along the question, like, I'm pushing these individuals but I'm not pushing myself. And so it was one moment and I was like, no, this is not it. I have to find her. I have to get back to her. I have to get back to her roots and what it is she desires and what it is that she wants and what is it that she is capable of. um so I think it was at that moment that started my journey of choosing myself. And that meant even if I had to turn my world upside down to choose myself, I was committed at that moment. Like that morning, I was committed.
Yeah. I like that you use the phrase finding her because that's something that, throughout my own journey is I had to go back to the place that I knew me to be at the core, and even finding moments to where I have to go back and undo all the things that I've been told or been taught and just really get to the core of who I am. Can
Right.
you walk me through the process or tell me how you went to find her? Because it's one thing to say, okay, this is not fulfilling me. I'm not happy. But it's another thing to actually take that thought and put it into action. And so what were
Right.
some of the things that you did to do that, to find her or find you?
Man, it was breaking my comfort zone. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was breaking what I was used to. It was taking a chance on not getting everything that I once had back again. So it was letting go of a lot of things. It was letting go of material things. It was letting go of help, what I thought was help, anyways. And so I just would say my biggest thing it would be to just break out of the comfort zone, um, and to continue to push and become completely uncomfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to become completely uncomfortable. And I mean, when I say that, that's leaving the job that I love, leaving my first home and putting myself and my kids in two bedrooms and depending on my parents to help nurture me back to the state to where I needed to be. And I'm not a person that depend on help. I'm very independent, so that was
Mm-hmm.
hard for me. I literally turned my world upside down. I became completely uncomfortable, and in those moments, I was able to bit by piece, like just rediscover myself. And that's like from the smallest thing. Like I remember as a kid, I loved to draw. Like I even went back to that. I went back to drawing and painting and as nerdy as this sound, but doing puzzles and things, like taking time for myself. Um, it allowed me the space to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I like how you did that because I'm listening to you, and I found that I did some of the same things. Like I'm just at the beginning of where you are at the beginning phase of where you are in your journey. So basically, rediscovering me. And one of the things that I did over the last summer, I was like, one of the things I used to like to do is roller skate. And so one day I went on Amazon and ordered me a pair of roller skates, and I roller skated for the first time that I had in since my early 20s. And so I'm like, things like that, finding those little things that used to bring you joy when you were younger before you were transitioned into a different role where you didn't have time for that anymore. That became one of the things that you kind of put on the back burner. I think that's a good catalyst to um, rediscovering you and figuring out who you are at the core. So
Right.
the puzzle thing, I think that's awesome. Drawing is, is,
Thank
is
you.
awesome. So that's, and I like how you also mentioned getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because oftentimes um, being uncomfortable, being vulnerable allows us to stay in that mindset of, okay, I'd rather just stay here in my routine, and that the fear of, well, what is everybody going to think, or what am I going to do? What is it going to look like? Will allow
Yeah.
us to stay complacent in a position that obviously is not fulfilling us or makes us happy. So I think
Right.
that's awesome that you did that. And then I also resonated with me with you saying that being a person that you're independent and you're able to rely on yourself to have to take a step back and rely on others to become your village, your support. I know was a huge thing to leave a job, um, to basically, like you said, turn your world upside down to rebuild is a huge step. And for many, you get to that threshold of making that decision, and that the whole turning upside down and leaving the unfamiliar will allow people to kind of stay stagnant. And so
Yeah.
I think that's awesome that you braved it and you did it.
I think it is important to self discover so that we do
Hmm.
not further lose ourselves, and
Hmm.
become the image of somebody else, or become the image that somebody want us to be other than ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, because it's so easy to condition to lose ourselves in different roles, in different based on what other people's expectations are within the roles of those expectations. And so it's very easy to lose that person. And it's even harder for me, in my experience, is to find that person that you were before, because you have to, remove all the labels that people have called you, or
Right.
the ideas and the principles that other people have placed on you, and
Right.
then go back to the core of who you were. And sometimes it takes a lot of remembering, and kind of like
Hmm.
with your experience of going back and doing puzzles and doing different things, that spark joy for you. A lot of people don't have the time or the I want to say resiliency or tenacity to do that, because it takes a
Yeah.
lot for you to go
Yeah.
back to that place.
It really does. It really
Hmm.
does. Resilient is one of my favorite words and that I'll use about myself because, and I really didn't find out how resilient I was until I made that choice. And
Hmm.
ever since then, that has been the thing that has just kept me going. Like, because I don't see, it looks hard. It almost looked impossible.
Hmm.
It looked impossible. I remember being told that you'll not being able to have half of the things that I have. Like when I was to turn my world upside down, I remember being told that I wouldn't get this, I wouldn't get that, I wasn't gonna have this, and um, then look at me. So
Yeah, that.
it definitely changed. I wasn't gonna be able to have a house again. I wasn't gonna be able to, it was a lot of things. Everything that I left, I was told I wasn't going to be able to get back. And so, but I was
And you
blessed.
have to have a lot of resilience to hear what everybody else is saying and keep pushing through no matter what.
Yep, you do. You do.
But yeah, you are. There you are. You did it.
I'm doing it.
So,
Yeah.
how did you keep yourself encouraged throughout that point? Because I recognize when you're making such a huge shift and change, it's easy for us to go to that place where the naysayers, and most of the time it can be in our own heads, to tell us to kind of no, just kind of stay the course where you are, or this
Right.
is what's familiar. So how did you manage to stay encouraged during that time?
Ooh, let me see. It was hard work. I cried a lot. I'm not going
Hmm.
to lie. I cried a lot. Um, I wrote a lot. I journaled a lot. I went back
Hmm.
to journaling. That was my outlet. Um, and then I had a plan. I had a
Hmm.
plan. Um, I'm a type of person that if I dream something, or if it's something that's in me that I desire so badly, then I feel like God, that is meant for me to really have. Like
Hmm.
that's meant for me. Like I feel like if God put that within me to dream it and to think of it, to even think of it, I feel like that is something that God wants me to have. And so, in
Mhm.
order for me to get to where God wants me to be, I have to put in my work. Whatever that may look like, I have to put in my work in order to get to that point. At the end of the day, is really faith driven, and I see the big picture. I'm always seeing the big picture. It's but the path to get to the big picture is so hard for me because I want it right now. I want it right now, but I feel like I would go back. I'm a person that I would go back to all the many lessons and how uncomfortable I was and how certain things made me feel. And I would allow my past failures to be my push towards my destiny or my push towards my next big marker on where I was trying to be. So
Okay.
there was no going backwards. Out of all the
Mhm.
things that I've gone through, all the loves that I thought I had that really weren't loves, or all the people that I thought were in my life that were roots and really turned out to be leaves and branches that changed and fell off. Um,
Mhm.
those helped me. Those experiences helped me get to where I am today. And so it was just a constant reminder of like I would have to take those moments. I think that's a part of self-care. Like I would have to go on walks, have my
Mhm.
talks with God and practice yoga or go try to plant something just to have those moments of space to where I can remind myself, okay, what is your end goal? What is it that you really desire? Okay,
Mhm.
well, you can't go backwards. You have to keep
Mhm.
moving. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
love
that
that. There's
yeah.
so many nuggets of wisdom in that those statements. Like
Me
I like how
too.
you use the if they're branches or if they're the roots, people. So that means kind of recognizing and accepting sometimes relationships have to come to an end.
Mhm.
And it's one of the hardest things for me that I have had to learn is that even though I love and I care about this person, it's okay to let them go and move on their path, and maybe our paths are not meant to be you know together.
That's so hard. It's so hard to
Mhm.
realize sometimes, especially as a loving person.
Mhm.
I try to love, I just, sometimes I get mad at it and I'll tell my person and I have a person, by the way,
Mhm.
and she's like the person that
Aw.
I go to for everything. And so I'll like, oh, I hate the way I love. Like I love so hard. I want to love and make sure everybody is okay. And then I just, then I feel bad. I'm the person that feels bad at the end. And she always
Mhm.
reminds me, like, don't you ever change who you are. Don't you ever change how you love. And, you're just choosing to give it to the wrong people, but don't you ever change how you love. So that is also something that I have to remember, like when you went back to the leaves and the branches. Okay, some people are just seasonal, and I have to learn to let those relationships go sometimes, especially if those relationships are not pouring in positivity for
Mhm.
myself as well.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And that's another thing too, is because like you and I just actually had a conversation with someone about this week. Because I love so hard and because I genuinely care for people, it's very tough to come to the realization that not everybody has that same heart. And
yeah.
I explained to this person that I noticed that my son has that same approach to genuinely caring and loving for his friends. And I'm just like, I'm not looking forward to the moment to when he realizes and he breaks his heart that not everybody loves the same. And the fact that we have so much to give and want to pour it into everybody, but everybody's not willing to accept it, even understand how to accept it, or even have the same genuine reciprocity of it, that it's a very hard thing to learn. And even at I say my big age, I still have a hard time learning that. And so that in itself is a whole other conversation, because it's like it's hard to for me, and I'm speaking for myself, it's hard for me to walk through life knowing the heart that I have and having to not lose myself and who I am, as far as, how open that I am. But at the same time, I have to guard it and we take care of it, because I recognize that everybody has the same genuine
Woo, girl,
posture.
that's a whole. Are you? That is all of me. Like period. All of me. You just said that about your son because I promise you, for the last 2 weeks, I just realized how much of myself is in my child, the way he love
Mhm.
and want to protect people and want to keep them from being hurt. But at the same time,
Mhm.
they are hurting him, and it's all around friendship based. At like because he's a fifth grader, but it's
Mhm.
within his friends, and I'm seeing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I how am I going to stop it? And I know I can't stop it, but it
Mhm.
has to be something or some type of way to be able to teach our children. It's okay to be who you are. I think it's a form of recognizing.
Mhm.
What did who said that? Was it Cicely Tyson? Like when somebody show you
Mhm.
who they are, you
Mhm.
you
Believe
take
them.
yes, you believe it the first time. And so I think
Right.
it is a form of recognition, recognizing um people's intentions, and so it's hard to do as a
Mhm.
child, and it's so
Mhm.
scary. So I feel that. I feel it
Yeah.
because as an adult, me in my 30s, I still have to remind myself, okay, Chan, you can't you can't save all the puppies. Like you cannot on you can't take all the babies in. You can't do it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's very difficult. It's very difficult to turn it off. Like
Yeah.
it's that's something that we have to learn. But I feel like, and I'm going to say you and I because it seemed like we share a lot of similarities with the way that we possibly love. Um,
Mhm.
we have to know that we deserve it as well. And so we
Mhm.
deserve that as well. So once we figure out to put ourselves first, not in a selfish way, but in a way of self-caring for ourselves, in a way that we show
Mhm.
love for ourselves first, and then we
Mhm.
allow space for other people to come in. So
Yeah.
that is something that
I
I'm
agree.
working on. Yeah.
Okay, because that was my next question is like, how do you pour into yourself, or what is your favorite method of self care? Because it's obviously very important, especially with people with big hearts, is to
Yeah.
make sure you give
Um,
yourself some of that love.
just stuff that make me happy. So I would tell myself no a lot, and I would be like, well, I don't. And I am that person too. I don't have anybody to do it with, or I'm single and I want to go to the movies with somebody. I want to date and be happy. And, I
Mhm.
need somebody to be able to do all these wonderful things with. And I
Mhm.
don't. I don't, I can take myself downtown and have a nice dinner, And so once
Mhm.
I realized that, it was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so I actually
Mhm.
started doing it, and it became fun.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I have it all together because I do not. It is a work in progress.
Mhm.
Because there are days when I'm just like, all I am is I'm a chauffeur for these kids. I'm
Yep.
here and there, and I don't have anybody to do this stuff with. But on a good day and on a good note, I am able to um, pour into myself. I may go buy something that I really like, or
Mhm.
I'll go and just I do something that is for me, not for the kids, not for the school kids, not for
Mhm.
anybody that is in my family, but just for me, just something that I like to do.
Awesome. And I can kind of echo that same feeling because me being newly single myself,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I had to learn is or even accept or even enjoy is solo dates or solo things. Like, of course, once you find yourself outside of the role of wife,
Mm-hmm.
um, now you have this whole other thing like, well, I don't know if I'm ready to date, but then at the same time, I want to go do these things. I still want to have that social life. And so it's like, well, I guess I have to get used to going to this nice restaurant with myself. But then what I'm finding now as I'm walking through that part of the journey is that I'm actually learning to enjoy my own company and enjoy having these experiences and getting to know myself even deeper so that when
Right.
I am open to that part of my life when I, decide to date, that I will have this newfound deep depth of my own relationship with myself.
Mm. Right. And I think that is so important because even when we when it is time for us to walk into that next phase of our life
Hmm.
with someone, with someone else, I think it's important that we know who we are so we don't have to repeat this same lesson all over again.
Mhm.
And finding that person would just make it, I think it's going to be more exciting because you'll have yourself fully, like just fully. I know before when I got married, I wasn't full. I wasn't complete. I was still
Mhm.
looking for bits and pieces to fill myself up with and to plug in gaps and all this other things. But the person that I am today, I know like my friends will tell me I don't commend myself enough, but I do internalize like I do applaud myself for my accomplishments on the inside, even though there's things that I still want to do. But
Mhm.
um it's important that we know who we are and we keep who we are. And going on solo dates, I think we just have to change our change our point of view with it.
Yeah. I like how you pointed out when you approached marriage the first time that you weren't a whole person.
Mhm.
What makes you say that?
So what made me say what I said is how come I felt like I wasn't fully whole. I wasn't whole. Um, I had before I got married, I had recently lost a child,
Mhm.
and um, that's probably one of the biggest traumas of my life, losing
Mhm.
my son, and it broke me because when I told you earlier on that I had decided I wanted to be a teacher, and when I'm saying like early on, this is probably even before fifth grade. I was very young, and at the same time, I knew I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a mom,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be a teacher. Those are the two things that I knew I wanted to be. Um, and of course, a wife within all of that because I wanted this big family. I've always dreamed of having this big family. So when um when I lost my first child, I thought that couldn't happen. So I thought it wouldn't happen. I thought this was it just crushed me. And so I went into a
Mhm.
dark place. Of course it took some healing and some different type of rediscovering to kind of get back and get my feet in and I'm gonna say even with that I decided not to be an educator. I was like, okay, that's probably not what I want to do. I don't want to be around kids anymore. And, I had tried to change my whole
Mhm.
everything from what I wanted as a child. And then I started. So once I thought I was back, when I thought I was okay, I was like, okay, I'm going to go forth. Let me attempt something else. And, but then I started looking for people to save me.
Mhm.
Started looking for people to get me out of the situation that I was in. And I'm married
Mhm.
upon that. I married because I didn't believe in myself enough. I didn't believe. Now, I was a military wife.
Mhm.
Yes, I did. I had love for this person, and I loved this person, and I at the time, we liked each other, and it was a good friendship, but it wasn't the forever type of love. It wasn't.
Mhm.
However, me being the nurturer that I am, the big hearted lover that I am, I think that everybody deserves my type of love. So I'm going to give it to
Mhm.
them, especially if they are able to get me out of the situations that I'm already in. So
Mhm.
I married based off of situations. I married because I didn't believe in myself enough to be able to take care of myself and get myself the things that I desired. I thought that I needed somebody to do all of those things. I needed somebody to have that big happy family. I needed somebody for to help me keep up with insurance. I needed somebody to be able to get the vehicle that I wanted. I needed somebody. So it was like I thought that I needed someone else to be able to provide all of these things for me. Right?
Mhm.
So I went in it just this sounds bad, but I knew that as long as if I was able to get back to a state to where I was a mom, if I was able to get back to the state to where I had the babies that I desired, then I would be fine. And I thought that's all I needed. I thought that was the
Mhm.
gap that I needed. I thought whoever could come along and
Mhm.
help me get the babies because of the missing hole that I had because of when Gavin left. um, that everything else will work out. But that is not how life works.
No.
Not how life works. And everything looked on the outside, everything looked exactly how I painted it, but it was still empty on the inside.
Yeah.
And
I'm so sorry. I understand the pain of losing a child all
mhm,
too well. Um, and I recognize the trauma. It's something that, like you said, you tried to fill that hole, but it's nothing that is going to fill that hole, unfortunately. It's just one of those things you kind of, like I tell people with that, it's a different type of grief where you kind of just embrace it as it comes. You may think, oh, I'm past it, but then there's a small little trigger that, may happen and you recognize like, I thought I was past this at this
yeah,
point. So it's
yeah,
one of those things you just kind of have to embrace and allow it to come and so I completely understand that, and I'm genuinely sorry to hear that because that's
thank
just a
you.
different type of pain that I don't know that I can even describe to someone else that's never been through it.
Right, right.
I understand what it's like to make a decision from that trauma, that pain of especially marrying someone for not I hate to say for the wrong reasons because you had your reasons and it's necessarily not wrong. It's just where you were in life. I just think that after a certain point, you recognize, well, I married this person because, you know, XYZ. And the person that I am right now that made the decision is not the same person sitting right here. And so
Mhm,
you make that point or make that decision to maybe this is not the right path that I want to go on. And I
mhm,
know for me, in my own journey, that was a very, very hard decision to make.
mhm.
Um, can you talk to me about how you got to that point and how you were able to make that decision? Because I know a lot of people, me for instance, if I would have had this a couple years ago to hear, that would have made me feel a little bit better about turning my life upside
About
down.
turning it upside down. Whew. So how your question is how did I make that decision? How did I finally make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
Um so earlier I talked about me feeling if God give me the dream or the vision, if he put it inside of me
Mm-hmm.
or if I'm able to think it, then it's meant for me to have.
Mm-hmm.
Started looking around. I was like, this is not what I pictured. This can't be it. This is not it at all. So I'm gonna go back to those moments, waking up right before getting ready for work and just being like, is this it? Is this it? Is this it?
Mm-hmm.
Though everything looked right, but it didn't feel right. It did not feel good on the inside. And then I realized, me being a loving person, what representation I was showing my babies, what type of love representation they were seeing in the household. That mattered to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I believe everybody is entitled to their fairy tale. No matter what that fairy tale looks like, you're entitled to your own fairy tale.
Correct.
You are, and you deserve that. And I wanted my children to be able to see a true representation of love. And once I started noticing that um, they were not, they were not seeing that, they were not being exposed to it. They weren't being exposed to it at all. Um, that's I started thinking. I started thinking, um, and I'll say it was two things, and this is I don't, two things happened in my life. So one was I lost my grandparents. It almost feel like it was year one year after another. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
just like a domino effect. And I remember not having anyone there to comfort me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so and I just remember not having a support
Mm-hmm.
system and I lived away from family. So I'm sorry.
No, it's this is I come to like emotion is good, vulnerability is good, and I am learning to embrace that. And
Right.
sometimes when we're speaking about things come up and we don't recognize it. So trust me, it's perfectly fine. It's a
Yeah,
safe
'cause I
place.
was not I was gonna hold it together for real. No matter what came up, I was gonna hold it together. But I just remember not having a support system. I
Hmm.
didn't have, being away from home, being away from family, not having, getting those phone calls and not having a support system or anyone there to comfort me. And
Hmm.
packing my kids up and, traveling back to family alone and feeling like, wow, like this is me, I'm losing my grandparents and I'm a very family oriented person. Like I would my grandparents all had Alzheimer's, and
Hmm.
so um I would every weekend, every Friday. Well, it started off like every other Friday for my last grandparent that was living. I would go home. I would drive in from school. I mean from work, me and the kids, just so he could see my face, just so I wanted to be a part of his last moments, and I didn't want him to
Hmm.
forget me. And so that was very, very important to me. And as tired as I would be, I would do it faithfully just for
Right.
those reasons, and just to go sit up at the nursing home and be with him and the rest of the family. But I would do it by myself. I would do it by myself. I would work all week and I would do it by myself. And that moment when I got the phone call, uh, there was no compassion or empathy showed towards the situation. And
Hmm.
I think that hurt me even more. Like I was already hurting, but I feel like that hurt me even more. And I was just like, who am I going to have when my parents go? Like, because
Hmm.
that's that's reality. That's next. You know what I'm saying? Like, what?
Yeah.
Who am I going to have to hold me together when my parents go? I don't have
Hmm.
anybody. I don't have that, and so this cannot be it for me. That was the first thing. And so even after that moment, I stayed. I still was there. I hadn't fully decided yet, but I knew it was something. It was something. This is not what God wants for me. Like I love too hard for this to be it for me. For me not to
Hmm.
receive any of it.
Hmm.
And, that person could have possibly been going through something internally themselves, but at the same time, when you decide to become in a partnership in a marriage, you're vowing to be each other's support system in a sense. Um, so one of my biggest teachers in my life is my child, is my son. That God willing, he made it through all of the hiccups and everything, and so he is here with me now. But he is one of my biggest teachers, and he was in first grade, and I remember doing the dishes or cleaning up after dinner,
Hmm.
and he walks in and he goes, "Mommy, this is not fair. You do everything by yourself." He goes, "You deserve the world." And he walked in there and he pointed at him and he goes, "You need to get up and do something." And so I was like, whoa, if my child can see, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because ultimately, if ultimately I want you to, I mean, a lot of people stay in uncomfortable situations for their children.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if my child is seeing this, what am I doing? If my child can see that I deserve more, why don't I feel like I deserve more? And
Hmm.
so when I heard that, that was my moment. And then I started
Yeah.
moving forward. I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't I didn't question anything else. I gave opportunities. Um I gave opportunities for I gave opportunities for chances to be allowed when I probably shouldn't have. And it wasn't me doing it or saying it with my mouth, but it was just time. I allowed
Mhm.
time to provide chances. And I just kept moving forward. It was no looking
Yeah,
back after that. It was that decision and me deciding if my child can see at the age of 7, 6, or that I deserve more, why don't I feel that for myself?
I also think that it's so much as a parent, you think that we're here to teach our children, but it's. I feel like sometimes it's the other way around, and it's so. I'm so happy to hear that. Unfortunately, it had happened that way, but it's so happy to hear that you were able to see that I deserve someone that loves just as hard as I do, and
Mhm.
that's an amazing thing, and that's one of the whole reasons that I feel like there's so much power in telling our stories because so much of what you said resonated with me. And if I would have heard this 2 years ago and someone having this conversation, that would have made me feel more confident in the decisions that I made for my life and my children. And so I think that's so powerful to own and recognize because that path is kind of scary, especially when you have this picture perfect, like you said, picture perfect view,
Yeah.
and people on the outside say, "Oh, things are they look great. This is, they have this. This is good. This is,
Yeah.
this is what." And then to think back to what you were saying earlier is that this is something that you dreamt of, being an educator, being a mom, being a wife, and so to rip that picture out of the frame and redraw it, and I'm sure
Basically.
it was not a easy thing to do. So
Right.
I commend you for that.
It was so scary. I'm gonna say, and it was scary because remember I painted this picture. I painted the picture that I had, and this is me losing or leaving my kid's backyard and the house and the extra financial needs that allowed me to live the life that I wanted for me and my kids, and me
Hmm.
believing in myself enough that I will have it again with myself. And I'm just going to say through all the doubt and all the tears, um I did it. And I was told that you live a what was that? You do not live the life of a single mom. Like, who do you think you are, type thing. Like, I didn't
Really?
deserve, right. Like, you do not live the life of a typical single mom. Who do you think you are? And that was said because I was determined that everything that you said I couldn't have, I was going to go get, period.
Hmm.
I I was going to go do it. And so within the time that I turned my life upside down, I went through a whole period of rediscovering and finding myself and all of those
Hmm.
things, to purchasing my next home for me and my babies, moving to a completely new area without a village. And so this is me doing this without my parents here. But buying the vehicle that I desired to have, that I always dreamed of having, and just continuing to go on, to continue to live the life that I thought that I could not have by myself. Um, d- don't underestimate yourself. Single moms, don't ever underestimate yourself, because there is no there is no there is not a definition of what a typical single mom is supposed to look like, or what she deserves, or what she is supposed to have.
Who has inspired you, I guess, or has had the most influence on your life?
That is so that and ever since I knew there was going to be a question that she was going to ask, and so I've been thinking, wow, who and as a lifelong learner, it's hard to
Hmm.
put to put a teacher hat on just one person in my life, because I can learn from anybody.
Mhm.
I'm just one of those people who I take what I take from almost everybody. It could be a person off the street, and I can
Mhm.
learn something in that, just in that moment from that encounter, and I'll take it and I will implement it in my life in some type of way. And
Mhm.
so it's so hard for me to just say that I've had one specific person that has been influential to my life, because I believe that my entire village is influential
Mhm.
to my life, because they all wear different hats in my life, and especially throughout the journey that I've gone through. And I couldn't have done it without all of those pieces. Um,
Mhm.
and when I and I say this because, even, and I'm not just speaking about family, but I can even go back to my kindergarten teacher being one of the people that, like, who, being one of my biggest fans, like,
Mhm.
she is still being a great person in my life still today, um and just believing in me and pushing me, and going to, my mom and my person and my cousins, who are like siblings, but we do
Mhm.
not share a cousin relationship at all. We are more like siblings. And um I cannot, my friends, like the girl tribe that I'm a part of, they teach me weekly. And so it's so hard for me to just say I have one influential person, when I believe that that award goes to my entire village.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I'm sure they'll see this and be feel good. You've mentioned roots a few times. For
Yeah.
those that may not understand what that means, what do you mean why someone that's a root in your life? What does that look like?
That looks like someone who is meant to be there for the long run. That is
Mhm.
that looks like someone who is not that is not someone you are constantly pouring into. That is someone
Mhm.
who pours into you as well. That is someone who takes the ugly with the beautiful, the good with the bad, on the rainy and the sunny days. No matter the stages, whether if you are looking picture perfect or you have just turned your life upside down, they still see
Mhm.
you and they still love you for who you are. And they're there. They're dependable. Roots are dependable.
Yeah.
Roots are so dependable. Those leaves and those branches, you can have them.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Is
Yeah.
I don't.
Because it's like you think about it in the natural is that, roots and branches can fall off at any time. If it gets stormy, they could fall off or they could be picked off. Whereas a root,
It's
it's the
grounded. It's
yeah,
grounded.
it's
It's
grounded, it's core.
grounded. It's saying, I got you.
Yeah.
Rain, sleet, storm, I got you. And
Mhm.
so those are the people that deserve my love.
Oh, I love that. Those are the people that deserve your love, the roots. I like that. That's I'm gonna have to keep that in my mental note of things to keep in mind when I'm looking at relationships with people. Who are my
Yeah.
roots? How do I identify the roots in my life,
Now,
and then make
identifying
that
it,
decision?
yes, identifying is tricky. But once you see, then you'll know.
Hmm. That's I like that. That's beautiful. So, if you could go back in 20 years and tell yourself 20 years ago, what advice would you tell her um, about life?
Don't underestimate yourself. Chan, do not underestimate yourself. Everything that your heart desire, you deserve, and you're worth it. And you don't need anybody else to obtain it. So I would definitely remind myself not to underestimate myself. I
Yeah.
think started the journey after losing the child, I definitely underestimated myself. I did. I put myself in a box and I shouldn't have. I should not have. But I'm out of that box now. But I should I I should not have done that. And then and whatever comes along, let it be an asset. Let it be of an additional, what did I say? Bonus love. Um you know how people will say, I'm gonna make you happy for the I don't want anybody to come and make me happy for the rest of my life. I want to
Mhm.
already be happy, and I just want them to add love to my happiness.
Oh,
Already be happy, and I just want whatever additional pieces they have, that it just brings more love to the happiness I've already built.
do you ever see yourself getting married again?
Yes. Oh yeah, girl. I'm definitely getting married again. And I say that because I am oh, this is I meant to tell this is I had it in my thumb here with a part of a question when you were talking about when we were talking about love and how hard it is to turn it on and off for certain people, or to teach our kids how to be able to recognize who deserve our real love. So another thing is, I'm such a nurturer. Like I'm built to be a wife. I am.
Mhm.
I don't I just have the qualities, and I'm not that's not me trying to boast and brag about myself, but it's just how I treat people. And I have the qualities of a nurturer, a wife that mm, I am wife qualified. I'm very wife qualified, and so it is so hard when I meet people not to not to give them that. And
Mhm.
so that has been a struggle, like dating. You want, because that's in you and that's what you naturally do. Like I don't try. I could. It's like I can pep talk myself to death. Okay, Chan, you're no one's wife yet. They don't deserve this right now. You don't do this.
Mhm.
You're just dating, and here I go, just doing all the things as a wife would do. And so it is so hard not to it is so hard to control that aspect of myself, but it's naturally built in me. And so that's another thing. Just like with the love and my wife like qualities, I have to learn how to reserve all of that until another one of my roots show up. Like I have to learn how
I
to
like that.
reserve that. It is so hard because it's so in me to just be like, well, I'm just gonna, because you just
Mhm.
the way we love, we just think everybody deserves to be catered,
'Cause why
and
not?
I want it. Don't you want it? So I'm like, let's here. And so it's
Yeah,
so hard to kind of turn it off. But that is something that I'm learning to do, to kind of slowly roll out things and to reserve all of my wife like qualities for
your next
the
room.
I am.
Mhm.
I just have the qualities, and that's not me trying to boast and brag about myself, but it's just how I treat people. And I have the qualities of a nurturer, a wife that mm, I am wife qualified. I'm very wife qualified. And so it is so hard when I meet people not to not to give them that. And
Mhm.
so that has been a struggle, like dating. You want, because that's in you and that's what you naturally do. Like I don't try. I could it's like I can pep talk myself to death. Okay, Chan, you're no one's wife yet. They don't deserve this right now. You don't do this.
Mhm.
You're just dating, and here I go, just doing all the things as a wife would do. And so it is so hard not to it is so hard to control that aspect of myself, but it's naturally built in me. And so that's another thing. Just like with the love and my wife like qualities, I have to learn how to reserve all of that until another one of my roots show up. Like I have to learn how
I
to
like that.
reserve that. It is so hard because it's so in me to just be like, well, I'm just gonna, because you just
Mhm.
the way we love, we just think everybody deserves to be catered
Because why
and
not?
I want it. Don't you want it? So I'm like, let's here, and so it's
Yeah,
so hard to kind of turn it off, but that is something that I'm learning to do, to kind of slowly roll out things and to reserve all of my wife like qualities the
your next
uh,
fruit.
for my next fruit, to pop up. So, but yes, to answer your question, I definitely love never fails. So, I could be a Debbie Downer and look at the past dating relationships and be like, I give up. I want to say that, but deep down inside, I can't. I I love love too much, and it's something that I feel like God wants me to have, and I just feel like if it hasn't happened yet, then it's gonna be so good when it show up. And
The hopeless romantic, being hopeless romantic. Yeah. I agree because that's one of the things that makes me a little bit causes me to pause when it comes to dating because like you, I love to nurture, I love to serve, I love to bring peace to someone's life. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I would like to cook and serve you and make sure you're taking feeling good when you're sick and I recognize that to some that might be kind of like, whoa, we just went on, you know, but that's just me. And even
Yeah.
that I'm even that way with my friends. And so
Mhm.
it's like, okay, how do I create this boundary? And this is something that I'm working on, how do I create boundaries? Because a part of self-care is having boundaries.
Yes.
Um, so it's like, okay, with my friends, I'm, 100% this way. I'm the one that will call and check on you if I know you're sick or, hey, have you done this? Or, being that nurturer. But if
Mhm.
there's someone that I'm interested in or that I'm developing feelings for, it's like, how do I create that boundary to not make them, to protect myself and making sure that I'm pouring into the appropriate amount into this person. So when I learn, I will share. Or
Well,
as you learn,
hey,
you share.
learn, we can have another one of these podcasts, and I'll share that with you. My
It's like
favorite
I need you to write the book on that because I'm still very much learning myself. But I find
Yeah,
that interesting that as we find more people like ourselves, that maybe sharing stories and sharing tactics and sharing techniques will kind of help us, you know, prosper in that area. But I'm
yeah,
happy to hear that you're still open to marriage. It's like you. I believe that I don't believe that I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. I
yeah.
think that I feel like I'm a very loyal and dedicated wife, and that's just who I
Mhm.
am. And so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So our fairy tales will come, whatever they may look like. They will. I really sound like the Notebook over here, but that's just that's just what I believe.
is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you'd like to share with someone while you have the
While I have
stage?
no, I feel like we've probably touched on a lot of different stages of my life that can
Hmm.
be influential or encouraging to someone else. Um, I will say I still don't have all the answers. There's still times where I break down. There's still times where I have to remind myself um, of the answers. I think this morning I was just saying to someone, it was like, we get in those moments where we become vulnerable and we get weak, or we almost lose hope, and we're
Hmm.
looking for the next steps. We're looking for what to do, but we already know the answer. It's just
Hmm.
and remembering, oh, that's what that lesson was. This is
Hmm.
how I'm supposed to react. This is how I'm supposed to move forward from that. It's just a constant reminder. We always have the answers within us. We just have to remind ourselves.
I
Keep
like
pushing.
that.
Yeah. I think that is the hardest thing because sometimes I I can lose myself. It's important as women that we remember we have the answer. We've gone through the lessons. We have the answer. It's just taking the time, calming ourselves down and remembering
Mhm.
what is it that I need to do. So, what is it I need to do? Where am I going? What have I already been through?
I like
So,
that.
yeah.
Remembering the lessons, being present in the moment. Those are things that are very, very helpful and good to remember, to be
Yep.
mindful.
Yep. Being mindful.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we could probably talk for hours and hours and hours.
So, but I've definitely enjoyed this time with you. It's been good. And I love your sweatsuit. It says self-love. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this time, and I appreciate the wisdom, your sharing your story. There's so much power, I feel like, in sharing stories. And each time I do one of these, I find things that resonate with me, but I also find that sharing these stories will be helpful.
I pray that I have been a piece of encouragement or motivation for you and others that look like us that have walked in the same shoes or are currently walking in the same shoes that we have placed on our feet. And I just remember to smile. Like we all deserve our fairy tale.